Hey there. It's me. I'm Nick Roush. That's Adam Luckett. This is the Pigskin preview presented by PrizePicks, where this week we're gearing you up for some exciting Week 5 college football action across the country. It was a rough Week 4 for this wagerer. But hey, can't stay down for long, Luckett. You just got to keep firing, right? And just keep firing away. We're going to shoot our shots. And you know what? I loved the board last week, and I was terrible. I hate the board this week. I think it's stinky. So that means I'm due for some winners and lots of them.
I like your logic. I don't know how sound that logic is, but I like the angle you're going for.
It's bulletproof. There's no denying it. We're gonna get you home with some winners. We're also going to talk about some of the biggest games of the week. There's three that really pop for me, and one of these lines, like, I know this isn't the biggest game, but Colorado's a 14-point dog at UCF. I don't really know how you can play either side there, Luckett. I don't.
Yeah, Colorado feels like the side, but
Just
are they going to be able to stop the run? Like, it feels like a game where UCF might run for 400 yards. It honestly feels like, one of those backdoor cover situations.
Yep. It just I can't. I don't want to touch it with the
unless Shedeur leaves in the fourth quarter. Unless he leaves the stadium in the fourth quarter again.
I started when I was going through it. There was a lot of numbers where I was like, yeah, that's the number. That makes sense. That's the case in that one, especially coming off of such a big win for the Buffs there at the end. That was a wild finish. I want to get to the other side of that here in a moment. But there's another game, too, that's got a lot of attention locally. Louisville's a 6.5-point dog at Notre Dame. And I find it so hard to want to pick either team because, A, Notre Dame kind of stinks. Their offense isn't great, so I'm not going to go bet them to beat any team by a touchdown. But at the same time, I mean, Louisville's only win is
you
beating
say that you say that Notre Dame's played two power conference opponents. They stuffed Texas A&M in a locker in Kyle Field, and that they put on one of the biggest beatdowns I've ever seen at Purdue.
Yeah. I don't know. I've just got that. I guess the Northern Illinois stink has just clouded my mind.
Yeah.
But on the other side too, it's like yes, Louisville. You look at the scoreboard and you're like, wow, they took care of business against Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech had two stops at 4th and goal from the 1, and they got a safety, so they salvaged some points out of one of those, and then had a block kick for a touchdown for Louisville. Like, I don't think you could say they played well in that game. So it's just so hard for me to get a read at all in this game.
Louisville's first test, and they could not run the ball. That's concerning, I would say, when you're going to face this Notre Dame defense. I think, again, I was on Georgia Tech, so I thought that was right-sided. They just didn't cover. Give up two non-offensive touchdowns, and Georgia Tech outgained Louisville by 100 yards. Like, Georgia Tech looked like the better. You could argue, I think they were the better team. They just, Louisville made the big plays. So I typically like to fade teams like that next week when they kind of steal a victory. This would be a good time, I think, to fade Louisville. And again, Notre Dame, they have offensive issues, but the defense is awesome.
Top notch, yeah, especially the secondary.
That's the point. The secondary is the strength. It's one of the best secondaries in college football. And if Louisville becomes one-dimensional, what happens there? That would be my question there. It's shorter than a touchdown.
That game's at 3:30 on the Peacock. I know there are some folks who aren't too happy about that. We just had to get it, Luckett. It was one of those where, you know what, they're begging me. I got this Friday night football game. You know what? And hey, Modern Family. I've never rewatched that show. Great show. It's on Peacock. So, Louisville fans, if you want to go, there's some bang for your buck there on the Peacock. The biggest game of the week, though, in Tuscaloosa, Georgia, 2-point favorite against the Crimson Tide. And I appreciate that there's so many stats in this game that are just obscene, where Kalen DeBoer hasn't lost a regular season game in forever, especially at home. And then Kirby Smart, he hasn't lost a game in forever. That it's just an indomitable force against an indomitable force. But I don't know if I'm confident enough in it. But it feels like this Georgia defense is going to take away Jalen Milroe's ability to throw chunk plays down the field. The only time Alabama's really been tested so far, it wasn't a test at all. The backup quarterback was in early, and they were just doing whatever they wanted to at Wisconsin. So Georgia's experience against adversity so far this year with the help of Kentucky, I'll lean that way. But I don't. It's hard for me to envision exactly how this game is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's offense has been clunky. Just look at the first half Clemson game. It's been a little clunky. Tate Ratledge, their best offensive lineman, is not playing.
They haven't been able to run the ball very well.
Yeah. I mean, efficiency-wise, even efficiency in the passing game is not – I mean, typically they're top 10 in success rate in passing and rushing, and they're like in the 40s or 50s right now. So that is different. They're still figuring things out at receiver. What is the total on that game? 50, 48?
Let's check it out.
I think that would, if I was going to play that game, that would probably be the side I'm going to be on.
An under?
Georgia hasn't given up a touchdown, Nick. 4 games. Like, what are we doing here? Just play that until it pops.
Fair enough. It's 48.5 is the total.
Yeah, I would play the under. That's the play. It's to play the under. Georgia's got off some offensive issues. Jermaine, they don't have Jermaine Burton or Isaiah Bond anymore. I know Ryan Williams, a true freshman, you really like at receiver, but do they have the receivers that are going to be able to win on the outside? Georgia's getting their two guys back on defensive front, and Warren Brinson. Michael Williams is questionable, but I think he's going to play. To me, this feels like a 20-16 win or 24-17, one way or the other. To me,
it's like Nick Saban never left. Like he never even left. A good old fashioned slobber knocker. I could get behind that. That's going to be a fun game Saturday night. A lot of juice in Bryant-Denny for that big game. Luckett, I found one line here, and it's the big stinky line of the week. It might be the stinkiest line of the year. BYU, after throttling Kansas State, just putting it on them in Provo. I was a big, dumb, idiot loser back in the Purple Wildcats last weekend. They're traveling to Baylor, who just called a play victory cigar and lost on a Hail Mary that forced overtime and then lost in overtime. BYU is a 3.5-point dog as a top 25 team. And I know that trends say that they're a dog for a reason, but I haven't changed my mind that I don't think BYU is that good. There was a lot of magic in the air. They had a bunch of things got away from Kansas State in a hurry right before half with some turnovers that set up easy scores for BYU. Kansas State was controlling that game. And then Baylor, where are they mentally right now? I'm fascinated by that game either way. But what? Whew. The stink is coming through my computer, Luckett. It's so stinky.
Don't ever overthink these. Unranked against ranked is favored for a reason.
Yeah.
That's under consideration for the column. It's not going to show up here, but Baylor minus whatever it is under consideration.
It's under consideration. As you'll see in my picks, I might just take all the stinky picks because I'm steering into the stink after a bad week.
We're going to talk about that Kansas State BYU game, but some stuff happened in that game.
It got weird. It was kind of like the South Carolina Kentucky game.
Some stuff happened in the BYU SMU game for them to win that one. SMU just vomited over themselves in the red zone 4 or 5 times.
Oh, they didn't vomit in the iron skillet. That was TCU who vomited.
Is stuff still going to happen? For BYU.
That just big picture wise, Big 12, Kansas, TCU, I feel very similar about it. Here's a bunch of teams who've just showed us a bunch of crap and also a bunch of good. I guess that's just the Big 12 this year. It's just, ah, ugh, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like West Virginia is down 11 with 3 minutes and end up winning the game or whatever it was.
Oh, Big 12. It's always entertaining, and you can always be entertained when you play Prize Picks. It's the most fun daily fantasy sports app out there, and it's pretty simple. You choose your squares, more or less on them. You string them together. You get great odds to win real cash money in your pocket with Prize Picks. And when you put in promo code KSR, play $5 in lineups, you're getting $50 in your account. Terms apply. That's promo code KSR, $5. Play it, and you'll get $50 in your account with our friends at Prize Picks. And look, as bad as I've been elsewhere, I'm kind of on a heater in Prize Picks. I read it off like 3 or 4 straight. And I cooked up another one this week where the thing that's cool about Prize Picks is they do throw you a few bones here and there, right? Like we had some Caleb Williams free squares essentially throughout the month of September. That should still be activated this Sunday, where all he has to do is complete a pass for a yard. They also had one with RJ Harvey, the UCF running back, only needing to get more than 77.5 yards. He's gone for $120 each week. So I'm riding with that little promo from Prize Picks. And then one touchdown from Tyler Shuck, because I do think Louisville's going to get on the board somehow, and they're not going to get it running the ball. And then Luke Altmaier, the former Ole Miss Rebel at Penn State. He's been really good. He was really good in that Friday night game at Nebraska. So that's what I'm rolling with this week, trying to test a hot hand. Had just got some Monday Night Football ones. Had a nice little NFL before. We're getting hot. We're getting hot, Luckett, with our friends at PrizePicks. Now, will we stay hot or will we stay stinky? I'm starting stinky, and I can't quit these Friday night games like it. I love them so much. Even if you go to a high school game, there's still one when you get back. And I'm going to the Big Ten, where when I think Big Ten football, I think Rutgers, Washington. Just a classic Big Ten matchup. Greg Schiano, it's taken him a while. It's been challenging with the nil in the portal, but Rutgers is looking to go 4-0 for the first time since Schiano was there back in 2012. And the Scarlet Knights, they're 9-3 ATS in their last 12 as a home favorite. And what I liked, Luckett, is that last week, and I guess that's a regional rivalry to some degree against Vatek. They blew a big lead. They were up, I want to say 22 points. Virginia Tech comes back and ties it, but they showed resolve, kicked the field goal late. And the statistics in this matchup are shocking. If you go to Game on Paper, which is a resource we like to use for advanced stats comps, Rutgers is, you don't think of Kaliak Manis as a great quarterback, but they're 11th in success rate right now. They stay ahead of the chains. They're 13th in success rate. And part of me sees this spot as a big moment, and I trust Rutgers a little bit more here. I thought this was a toss-up, likely win when I was handicapping preseason. Everything I've seen is leaned towards that. And in the only kind of similar spot we've seen Washington, they really laid an egg at home in a rivalry game. I know this isn't exactly a rivalry game, but my preseason convictions, I think, are going to be manifested Friday night with a little Rutgers -2.5 over the Huskies.
Yeah, Rutgers under Greg Schiano 2.0, 9-3 ATS as a home favorite. It's a big game for the win total picks.
Big game. Big game.
Under Washington, over Rutgers. So this would be a good move in the right directions with the Rutgers win. I was not huge on Washington just because of all of the turnover. And then their schedule is brutal in the Big Ten. This is actually one of their more winnable games. So if they lose this one, you could be looking at maybe a 4-8 for them.
Yeah, and Will Rogers has put up some numbers, but he always puts up numbers like it. You trust that guy to go on the road and get you a hard-fought win against a good defense?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a good test for that offense, I think.
Yeah, so I'm taking Rutgers. It's my favorite bet of the week, and that just shows you how stinky this week is. I'm loving Rutgers football. So there we have it. What's your first pick, Mr. Luckett?
Yeah, Oklahoma State at Kansas State. I'm going to lay the 5 points with the Purple Cats. Their last 15 games, Nick, K-State is 12-3 against the spread as a home favorite. The home team in this series has covered 6 straight. I don't think Oklahoma State is very good. I think it's time to just let's just admit this, right?
They were bad last week. They couldn't do anything.
They had 3 points through 55 minutes. They cannot run the ball.
No.
Arkansas should have won that game by 17 points. For turnovers, they should have lost this game. So they're going on the road here. Kansas State, I think, again, that game got away from them. They outgained BYU. And last time we saw them at home against Arizona, they hammered them. They absolutely hammered them. I think you could see something similar. I like the spot for Kansas State. Again, Mike Gundy has some overachieve when low expectations and underachieve with high expectations energy. This feels like a team that's probably going to underachieve based off preseason expectations. So I like K-State in this matchup. I'm going to lay the 5 points, and I think they can win by double digits.
I generally have a personal conviction that I cannot ride with the same team that just cost me and made me look like a buffoon, but I'm just going to have to jump on the Purple Cats with you. So I'm there. I considered it, but I guess both teams kind of let me down last week. So one of them's got to be on the right side this week. They were
the wrong one.
They were under consideration, but that to that BYU, I mentioned it earlier. It felt like the Kentucky-South Carolina game where it was right there, 2 turnovers before half. BYU goes and scores on both of them. Kansas State was getting ready to score again to start the third quarter, and then boom, another turnover.
Yeah,
they were just
the 2
bad
road
turnovers.
starts. The road starts have been rocky for Avery Johnson, but I watched them play at home. It's they're a different animal in that stadium at home, and I think you'll see that play out on Saturday.
Don't mess with the Purple Wildcats from the Little Apple. You want sicko picks? Well, here's a sicko pick for all you sickos out there. Wyoming and Air Force, under 34.5. These are 2 of the worst football teams to ever play football. One offense ranks 132nd in success rate. One of them ranks 130. Another one's 110 in EPA. Another's 133. They can't pass the ball at all. They're just going to run it. So run the clock out. Get out of there. This is an ugly, gross game. I just wish that I had seen it earlier in the week before this total started dropping. But this feels like Air Force and Wyoming, they give off some classic Iowa energy vibes where it's just like, I don't care how low the number is. I'm going to play it. These 2 teams stink. I just hope that bad turnovers don't lead to easy points. So give me the under, Wyoming Air Force, under 34.5.
Yeah, I always say this. Anytime your total is under 40, just can't have any defensive scores. Yeah. That's the one thing. And with 2 offenses this bad, specifically Wyoming, that seems very possible. So that would be the one thing to watch out for. But if there's not a turnover party, this thing probably gets under.
Who is your second selection?
Yeah, I mean, some might think this is a stinky pick, but I'm jumping on North Carolina here. At Duke, catching 2.5. I mean, everything. There's rumors that Mac Brown told his team he was going to resign. They just gave up 70 points to in-state James Madison. They're just getting hammered all week. Meanwhile, Duke is undefeated. He's got some momentum. I just love how this game aligns for North Carolina. Do not think their defense is as bad as it showed last week, and I also think James Madison's probably better than Duke. Duke's offense has really struggled this year under Manny Diaz. They play an aggressive style of defense, but that can lead to explosive plays. We know North Carolina's offense can be explosive. I just like this matchup for the Hills. I think they're the better team, and they're catching points. It's boss versus former. DC, which I love to play those typically. So give me Mac Brown and the Hills in this spot plus 2.5. I'll probably play them money line and just take the plus odds.
That was something I did not know until this week that Manny Diaz got fired by Mac Brown. And it was either Mac's last year at Texas or
towards the end at Texas. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then there was also like an awkward handshake when the two played a couple of years ago, back when Diaz was at Miami.
Well, Mac beat that when they beat him by 50 down there.
Yeah. That was that's the only part of this that would make me a little reticent, is just like Diaz is like
I've watched if you watch Duke football, you would be feeling how I felt. They shouldn't have beaten Northwestern.
Which
they messed around
it's hard
the
to
whole
say.
game. North Carolina's just got the better roster, and you're getting them in kind of a cornered spot.
Yeah,
in a bare spot. Typically, when teams are embarrassed, they play well the next week. I think we see that from North Carolina.
My final selection, I was going back and forth on whether I wanted to play a total or choose a side. And I ultimately landed on South Alabama plus 21.5 because of the backdoor possibilities here. The LSU defense, it ain't it. I mean, it's marginally improved, and I think it can do enough, like in some of these big moments, but I don't think it's going to do enough for them to just blow teams out. Like, they should have covered easily against UCLA, but just couldn't stop a nosebleed late in the fourth quarter. And I think that's going to be similar here against South Alabama, which I got to say, Luckett, that was one of the more shocking results last week. Nobody cares because it was going up against Thursday Night Football in the NFL. But App State home game on a weeknight, like, they are very good there. Those teams have played for Sun Belt titles. And South Alabama just whooped their ass. It was 28-7 at halftime, and that was only because App State threw a Hail Mary. They beat the absolute snot out of them. And Fluff Bothwell, man, that dude, he can run the ball. And you think those LSU guys are going to tackle him? I was tempted with just like, if you don't like South Alabama and the points, maybe you go over, maybe you do South Alabama team total over. But one angle I also wanted to bring up here, and they gave me a lot of hell for it because I messed it up, but I think of Mobile basically as Louisiana, right? Like that, like Gulf Coast has a lot of Louisiana energy. And so there's a lot of guys on the South Alabama roster that probably grew up cheering for Alabama. And now they get this opportunity to play in Death Valley at a night game. They showed up big last week in a big spot, so I'm expecting them to do the same. Jaguars plus 21.5.
Yeah. LSU. 0-4 against the spread this season. 3-1 record outright, but 0-4. They failed to cover 4 straight.
Brian Kelly, I know he's probably got to be gunning for those big numbers for the boosters, but we're jagging off this week, Luckett, because the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's looking rough. It's looking rough down there for our Kentucky guys and old Doug Peterson. Who are you closing us out with this week, Mr. Luckett?
Yeah, it's the whiteout game, State College, Beaver Stadium, Happy Valley. I'm riding with Illinois for this. We didn't have them in this pigskin preview, but those Luckett's locks saw Illinois kick off the weekend as a road dog. We're doing it again. Plus 18, Nick, in this matchup. Illinois, let's just read off some trends here. 10-3 against the spread as a road dog under Brett Bielema. They are 9-2 against the spread in their last 11 in State College. They won their last trip there, that wild overtime game that had the 2-point kickoff. The main reason I like this matchup, we talked about Luke Altmaier. He's having a really good season. Like, this Illinois offense is legitimately good. And I don't think their defense is bad. So, and we don't really know a ton about Penn State yet. They did handle their business against West Virginia. And I think they won that game like 32-13. But I think this Illinois offense might be better than West Virginia. I think Illinois can get to 17 points in this game, 17 to 21 points. And if they get there and you're catching 3 possessions, I like the odds here. And I don't think Illinois' defense is going to get boat race by this offense. And also, Illinois played Kansas last year. Kansas offensive coordinator is a play caller at Penn State, Andy Coltonecki. So they do have that familiarity with them. So I like Illinois catching. This is just too many points, I feel like. I feel like it's at least 4 or 5 points too many. So I'm going to take it. You're over a key number, over that 17. A 35 to 20 gets you home. A 37 to 21 gets you home. So give me the Illini plus 18.
Illinois got a +7 turnover margin this year. That
matters.
Yeah.
We talked about that this week. KSR. Kentucky has won the turnover margin twice in their last 9 power conference games.
Yeah.
Why are they 2 and 7 in their last? Because they don't win the turnover battle.
Yeah. So Illinois, they're going the right way. Speaking of Kentucky, Ole Miss, how I don't think either of us are going to play anything in that game. If you were to make a wager, how would you go about it? What's an angle you would look for?
Under. I like the under here. It's 55, 54 and a half. No, it's like 56, I think.
And
I don't think Ole Miss is going to score over 40. I think they're probably going to be somewhere between 30 and 35. I also don't think Kentucky is good enough on offense to lose this game 35 to 31. It feels like a 31 to 17 final to me, and that's a touchdown under the number.
I was kind of thinking I do trust the Kentucky defense, even though this is a different situation than anything they've played before. 35.5 is the Ole Miss team total. Going under that feels like a pretty decent bet. But
yeah. Again, but I think if they go under the team total, that total's definitely going under.
That's true.
So
and
just play the total under. You know what I'm saying? Why risk it? Mm-hmm. Why risk Ole Miss winning this game 30 to 17 when you would have easily had the game total under? But you would have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or if they win the game 30, whatever.
Yeah, 53.5 is what I'm currently seeing it at. So
so that's I think when I look at Ole Miss, their secondary is a work in progress. They're playing a ton of guys. They're mixing and matching. That is the one spot on their defense that is a weakness. So the first team, I think, that is able to hold up in protection against this group and not get one-dimensional, stay balanced, but able to hold up in protection, you're going to find, I think, some big plays through the passing game. But I don't trust Kentucky's offensive line to be able to do that, or the receivers to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the biggest thing working against Kentucky in this game.
If you want to beat an explosive offense, you've got to create some explosive plays. We'll see if Kentucky can find some lightning in a bottle. Barry Brown played well here the last time out. They need him to step up, make a few big ones Saturday, 11 a.m. local kick on ABC.
That's it. It's offensive line protection, and I think it's receivers. If those two groups play well, Kentucky has a real chance to win that game.
And your under might be cooked. Mr. Luckett. We're going to be making our way down to Oxford. If you're going down there, just holler at us. We'll be out and about amongst them Friday, hopefully celebrating a win Saturday night. That would certainly be something. And we'll be in the Grove Saturday morning, rolling around. I think Peak's going to go live before the catwalk, which is, I want to say, 8:45 local time, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll have all the details up on KentuckySportsRadio.com. Reach out. Hopefully, we'll see you down there. One more time to recap our picks. After a rough week, an 0 for week, I'm going Rutgers -2.5, Wyoming Air Force under, and South Alabama +21.5. Luckett is riding with Illinois and North Carolina as dogs and taking the Purple Wildcats from Kansas State -5. I'm going to jump on that too. So let's get the Purple Wildcats home. Let's take down Mike Gundy and cash some tickets this weekend. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. This has been the Pigskin Preview presented by PrizePicks.